Hello and welcome to this live class. My name is Maggie. I am an English teacher, and today our topic is reporting verbs. Not just reported speech, but the verbs that you can put before saying what someone said. Like, he accused me of stealing, for example. I don't know why that was the first example to come to mind. Hello everyone and welcome. I hope that you're doing well. I'm back. I had a lot of things going on so far in 2026. But today we are going to have a live class related to reporting verbs. Related to learning a new language, I would say the best thing to remember is to take in as much of the language as you can. Expose yourself to the language. It can be with online readings. It can be with videos. Expose yourself as much as you can, and then practice what you see. Practice what you learn and imitate. And as long as you're doing those things, you really could be creative with it. You can do journaling, you can try to find speaking partners, you can try to make your own videos. I think projects can be very memorable ways to learn a language as well. But as long as you're taking in input and then practicing what you see and imitating, you're going to be on the right track and you're going to see improvement. Beyond that, you can choose your own strategies. And a lot of people post videos with different strategies, so I would recommend just trying different things out. Yeah, shadowing is a good strategy. Exactly. I have a topic today, which is reporting verbs. So verbs that you can use to say what someone said to you. They're very useful for the news or for telling stories. In English, we have different options. Sometimes we need to use an infinitive. Sometimes we need to use a gerund. And if we're talking about a different person, we often need to use a that clause with reported speech. So we'll practice all of these different ways of reporting what someone said to us. I will show you the verbs here. So here are some verbs that always are followed by the to infinitive when we are saying something about ourselves. So when the subject does not change. Oh yeah, also if you're celebrating Ramadan, happy Ramadan. I'll show you guys actually some examples here. Exactly. Maggie claimed to have reporting verbs as the topic for that day. When we have these verbs here, agree, demand, offer, promise, refuse, threaten, claim, all of these verbs, if we're not changing the subject, so we're not talking about a different person, we're still talking about the same person, all of these verbs, we're going to follow it with to and the infinitive. So, he agreed to come with me. He himself said, yes, I'll come with you. That's the idea behind this sentence. So we have agreed to do something. For example, in direct speech, someone might say, I'll come with you. In reported speech, he agreed to come with me. Then we have, he demanded to be told everything. We could also say he demanded that I tell him everything. If we are going to change the subject, we can use that. But if not, we can use the to infinitive. He offered to carry it. He promised to study more. He refused to come with me. He threatened to punish me if I didn't behave myself. He claimed to have heard her say that. So these words, agree, demand, offer, promise, refuse, threaten, claim, they all kind of have this similar idea, right? So to offer or promise are like the opposite of to refuse to do something. So we can think of them as being related, that to refuse could be like the opposite of agree, offer, or promise. To demand or threaten have also this similar idea behind them. All of these can be followed by to and the infinitive. The last one is an interesting example because he claimed if we want to put the word after in the past, we can say he claimed to have heard her say that. So I want you to think about your week and what people said to you. Use the structure that I have here to tell me, what did someone say to you this week? And you'll notice that we don't need to use reported speech here in terms of changing the verb into the past because the subject is not changing. So we're not using that in this case. We're just using the infinitive. Can anyone think of an example of something that someone said to you this week using the verb to and the infinitive? And the thing that decides whether or not you're using the infinitive or the gerund in English is usually what comes before the word. So it's not like the word agree, demand, or offer is always in the infinitive or is always in the ing form. It's that the word after takes the infinitive form. My son offered to walk the dog for me. That's a great example. My son offered to walk the dog for me. My boyfriend promised to watch the movie with me tonight. Nice. He refused to eat pasta for dinner. Perfect. Yes. So we can also think of situations where it's helpful to use these. Maybe when you're talking to a family member or a partner or a child and you're telling them, you agreed to help me today, or you promised to take care of your sister. That could be one situation when you use this. Another is if you're telling a story like, oh my God, I can't believe my boss threatened to fire me and he demanded to come into my office unannounced. So if you're telling a story, it could also be a useful structure to use. My employer demanded to be way more careful with my way of working. Like a micromanager, maybe. My manager demanded to breathe over my shoulder while I was working. My boss demanded to have a meeting. Nice. My boss demanded to have a meeting. I agreed to study English with you. Nice. It wasn't me who refused to talk about it. Okay, this is a great sentence. What I'm showing you guys is kind of this basic structure, right? Like, he agreed to do this. But if we want to elevate our examples and take it to another level, you could also try to fit this into a more complicated structure, like what Adolfo has. It wasn't me who refused to talk about it. So in this case, you could have kind of another clause. Instead of he, you can replace it with, another relative clause. It wasn't me who, the man who left the party early. You could add more details about this person and then say, agreed to, refused to, etc. So that's the good thing with practicing basic sentence structures in English. You can take them and run with them and use them in other ways. My boss threatened to fire me if I was late to work again. My CEO refused to apply my proposal on this new project. She agreed to meet me after church. I think these are all great because maybe a lot of us are very comfortable saying, he told me, or he said to me, but it's good to have more options, right? Sometimes we want to be more specific than only tell. Claim is a really good one, which basically means someone told you something, but there's not really evidence behind it. So you're not saying it's true. It could be, for example, the scientist claimed to have discovered a new virus, but maybe the scientist was incorrect. He was just saying that. And so another interesting thing for everyone to remember from this as well is when you want to put an infinitive further into the past, like with the word claim, we can say, he claimed to have heard. So that's a way to put the infinitive further into the past. The same thing goes for other structures. Like instead of saying, I'm sorry to tell you, I'm sorry to have told you. So you could use in other structures that use the infinitive. It's like a way to use the infinitive, but still use the past tense. Because it doesn't sound correct to conjugate the verb. He claimed he didn't hear her. That's not correct. We have to not conjugate the verb, just leave it in the infinitive form. The teacher demanded to speak with the parents. She claimed to be the strongest woman in the world. I refused to do extra work if more money ain't offered. Are there a complete list online of the reporting verbs? I'm sure there are more than what I have here. In my channel, I posted, if you go to my Instagram, I have a channel called Lucky Charms, and I put a PDF of all of the verb patterns. So you can see what I'm getting this from there if it's helpful for you. My wife offered to help for dinner at night. He refused to travel around the world because he was sick. Okay, so now this is one pattern. Agree, demand, offer, promise, refuse, threaten, claim, relate to something that a person is doing themselves, but we also have verbs that very often need an object and an infinitive. So we'll look at some of those. I agreed to watch the stream and joined. Nice. My teacher agreed to give me help for my homework. He demanded to know the truth. Yeah, some of these are going to be very good sentences for your everyday life as well. I'll go to the next ones. So this is a list of verbs that need another person and the infinitive. So if I just remind, you can't just say, Maggie reminds, right? I need an object there. Who does Maggie remind? Same thing with to encourage. Maggie encourages. This is another verb that needs a person there. Who am I encouraging? We need an object. So the verbs that typically take this pattern, where it's the verb, a person, and the to infinitive, are advise, allow, ask, beg, command, encourage, forbid, instruct, invite somebody, order, permit, remind, urge, warn, want. You can see here, to be honest, one of the ways that I really think works well to remember verbs is in opposite pairs. So in the previous examples, we had to agree to do something and to refuse to do something. Those were like opposites. In this case, we have some opposites. I would say to allow and forbid, for example. We're talking about permission. So to allow, permit, that is different from to forbid. And we also have other related words. Maybe to warn or urge could also work in this category because we're talking about what is important to do. But those could also be different from to invite somebody to do something, which sounds a little bit more optional, right? So some of these, like if you invite versus if you beg, those also could be seen as similar words or on the same type of spectrum. So I think it could be helpful to look at words that have a similar idea behind them or could be opposites, and how can we make connections so that we can remember how to use them. So we have, you encourage me to study more. Yes. And so that's a very good example because we need the person, the object pronoun. You encourage me to study more. We're putting an object pronoun there. I beg Maggie not to end the meeting early. I would put the word early at the end of that sentence. I beg Maggie not to end the meeting early. I command my dog to give me his paw. She allows me to read her private messages. Oh my goodness. In the meantime, I'm also going to show you guys more examples. For those of you who are not really sure what a sentence that you could make is, here are some more examples. They asked her how to get there. Yeah, very good. In addition to the infinitive, we could also, what you have here is an indirect question. So if she asks directly, she could say, how do I get there? But then if you're reporting it later, they asked her how to get there. She bade me farewell. Okay, so here's some examples. He advised me to take a coat. This is to advise someone is to tell them something like advice. So you can think of to advise as basically being a verb form of giving someone advice. He allowed me to use his phone. He asked me to put it away. He begged me to help him. To beg is like, please help me. I need your help so badly. I'm begging you, please, please help me. That is to beg someone. He commanded the soldiers to fire. That is like to order someone, but it sounds very serious. He encouraged me to phone her. To phone is another way to say to call. It's more common in British English. He encouraged me to phone her. To encourage is to tell someone that you think it's a good idea. So if I encourage you to study, it's like, yes, please study. You're doing a great job. Keep going. That is to encourage someone. He forbade me to eat sweets. Forbade is the past tense of forbid. It's an irregular verb saying that it is not allowed to do this. He instructed me to insert coin. He invited me to go to his house. He ordered me to sit down immediately. He permitted me to speak. He reminded me to pay the bill. He urged me to finish my work. He warned me not to touch the switch. And then I'm trying to read the last one. He wanted me to go out. So some of these, to be honest, you've probably already heard before. He wanted me to go out. I'm sure that a lot of you already are used to the idea that want is followed by the to infinitive. want and need. I need you to help me. I want you to help me. But it's good to remember that we can use this pattern with other verbs also, like to beg, encourage, instruct, invite. The boss urged the secretary to write the letter. When we're using forbid, you have two options. You could say, he was forbidden to write the project. So that would be like a passive voice to say that he is the one that's not allowed. Like John was forbidden to write the project. John is the one not allowed. But you could also say, John forbade me. John forbade me to write the project. So if you wanted to say that someone forbade someone else, I would use the structure here, he forbade me, and include the object pronoun. She reminded me to put more effort in my work. He advised me to take a coat. My friend forbade me to smoke cigarettes. She asked me to do the final tasks. Something interesting about the word forbid. So, in the past, the word bid, like I bid you farewell, just the word bid, was bid, bade, bidden, was the past tense conjugation. Similar to forbade, forbid, forbidden. But over time, there is something that happens in English where over time, some of the past tense conjugations become less common to use. And now it's accepted to say bid, 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 like bid for the past tense as well. I think something similar is happening with the word forbid, that a lot of native speakers might incorrectly say forbid in the past because it's a bit of a very formal word. So the correct past tense is forbade. That's the correct accepted past tense. But it also would not surprise me if you heard someone say forbid in the past, because it's not a very common word, and also that person might be thinking of the word bid, which is bid in the past as well in modern English. Insert coin is to put a coin, like if you go to an arcade and you need to put a coin inside of a machine, that is to insert coin. Okay, so if you forbid someone to do something, that word is negative. So you could say, I forbade my husband to drink. So you are telling your husband that he is not permitted to drink. So forbade has the idea of not allow. So if you say, I forbade my husband to not drink, it's like you're forcing him to drink. You're like, you have to drink alcohol. So in this case, I would say, I forbade him to drink. It's also common to see, I forbade him from drinking. You can see that as well, with the word from and the gerund. So both of those structures are possible with the word forbid. He allowed me to use his phone. They got asked to keep quiet in the waiting room. This is great also. They got asked. We're using a passive voice. So all of these, you can basically do whatever you want with the reporting verb. You can change the reporting verb, advise, allow, ask, beg, to the passive voice. You can put it in the past tense, the future. You can do whatever you want with that verb. It's just that the verb after it is in the infinitive. So in this case, we can say, they got asked to keep quiet in the waiting room. Or he was instructed to insert coin, which is to insert the coin into the machine. Yeah. So you can change the initial reporting verb if you so please. Nobody can forbid me to eat sweets. Okay. I think in my case they could try, but I would find a way to eat chocolate. He asked me to put it away. Yes, exactly. With these here, we are having one person that is permitting, allowing, or doing an action to a second person. So the first list that we had today was a person doing something themselves. I agree to help you. I offer to help you. Like, I'm in control of myself. In this case, it's someone doing something to someone else. I'm going to bring us now to the next example, which is a little bit maybe strange for some people. If ing verbs are not so common to use in these sort of situations in your language. For example, in Spanish, a lot of people only learn that ing verbs are like continuous verbs. So ando or yendo. But in English, that's actually not true at all. So we use ing verbs in a lot of situations where other languages would just use the infinitive. So one of those situations is after a preposition. So after a lot of prepositions, we use the ing verb. All of these reporting verbs that are followed by ing kind of have something to do more with emotion, I would say. So that's how I personally remember it. Instead of like an order or a command, it's like to apologize, to complain, to insist, suggest. These are a little bit more emotional. It's not a rule. There's not really a rule, but just to help you. I allowed myself to eat another 2 bars of chocolate, although I had already eaten a bunch of them. That's a very good sentence. She was asking me to create the project while I was finishing my daily routines. Nice. I like that in this one she was asking me to. That's a great example of using whatever tense you want before the infinitive. So it's good to get comfortable doing that. So we have here to accuse somebody of. The SB represents the word somebody. To accuse somebody of doing something. For example, she accused me of eating the chocolate. Apologize for doing something. Admit to doing something. And so we can see accuse and admit are kind of similar. It's like I tell you, you did this, or you say, oh no, I did this. So these are a little bit related, right? To boast about, which means to brag about doing something. I did it. Ha ha ha, I'm the best. That is to boast. In Spanish, presumir. So this is one way to say presumir in Spanish. Complain to somebody about, deny, and the word deny is not followed by any preposition. It is just deny and the ing verb. So I denied doing it. And of course we can see here, admit and deny, these are like opposites. Insist on, this is to say, no, I really need to do this. And we have suggest. Suggest and recommend. I like to think of suggest and recommend in the same category. He denied going on vacation with us. Okay, here is an important thing for everyone to know. What is the difference between deny and refuse? Here's the difference. He refused to go on vacation with us. Means that I invited him and he said, no, I will not go on vacation with you. He refused to go on vacation with us means that he said no to the invitation. He denied going on vacation with us means that he went on vacation and then later people asked, oh, did you go on vacation? And he said, no, I didn't go on vacation. And he said that that was not the case. It's like the opposite of admit something. It could also happen that he's not guilty. Like if you told me, Maggie, you were stealing, I could say, no, I was not stealing. Maybe that's true, I was not stealing. But you could say, Maggie denied stealing. So just to say that I said that I did not do that action. I apologized for not being supportive to her. Stop apologizing for your mistakes and do something about it. I'm thinking, I don't know if anyone watched the movie Jesus Christ Superstar. There's a song about Peter and Jesus, and he's like, Peter will deny me, da 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 da, because Peter denies, he says that he doesn't know Jesus. So yeah. Please receive my apologies for doing this. Nice. Good structure. She denied having an affair when she went overseas. Yes. Okay, I'm going to show you guys some examples of this, the ing form. He accused me of breaking the vase. He apologized. Oh no, I need to include the to here. This is a typo. The second one. Okay, on the second example here, he apologized to me. So he apologized to me for upsetting me or for having upset me. So the second one here, imagine that it says he apologized to me, not just me. He admitted to lying, or he admitted to having lied to her in the past. He boasted about being better than me. He complained to me about my never tidying up. He denied stealing, or he denied having stolen the car. He insisted on me wearing warm clothes, or he insisted on my wearing warm clothes. All of these that say my sound a little more formal. So, he complained to me about my never tidying up. That sounds a little bit more formal. I would say also just he complained that I never tidy up would also be fine. You could use a that clause. He complained about me never tidying up. Yeah, I would say he complained about me never tidying up is also fine. Okay, with denied to go and denied going, denied to go is not correct. You have to say refuse to go. If you want to say that you invited someone somewhere and then they said no, say refuse to go. Deny combines with the gerund, not with the infinitive. Deny means that you said no, that something did not happen. He apologized for upsetting me. Yes, that works. That's good. Regularly, I complained to Maggie about my tedious and exhausting retraining. I like dancing, but I deny it all the time. Yes. Since then, he is living in denial. Tidying up is organizing the room. Yeah, if you wanted to say like looking better, you can say freshening up. So I told him to freshen up. Or you could say, like, if your friend comes in to a place where you are and is wearing a nice suit, you could say, oh, you clean up nicely. You clean up nicely. He denied being the best salsa dancer ever seen since 1982. Is that an autobiographical sentence? Okay, I'm going to give you guys a quote, and I want you to tell me how you could say it with a reporting verb. So, okay, the quote is, imagine if someone said, you're right, I took your iPhone. It was me. How can I say this sentence? You're right, I took your iPhone. It was me. How can I say this sentence? using a reporting verb. She suggested we go to the new restaurant around the corner. She suggested we go, or she suggested going. Also works. She suggested going with the ing verb as well. There are some words in English where it's not necessary to include an object pronoun, and I find that a lot of my students feel like there needs to be one, but that's not always true. So, for example, a lot of Spanish speakers say, "Explain me the problem," but you could just say, "Explain the problem," and it's understood that I mean to me, for example. Like, it's not necessary. The same thing with, "Oh, like, my boss recommended going to that restaurant." You don't need to say, "My boss recommended me to go to that restaurant." You can just use the gerund, and it's understood that the boss was recommending to you. I admitted to having taken the iPhone. She admitted to taking my iPhone. Yes, both of those are good. Yes, very nice. Okay, I'm gonna put another one here. Okay, so the sentence is, I have never met that man before. I have never met that man before. How can I say that with a reporting verb? I have never met that man before. Okay, this is a good one with claimed and the infinitive. She claimed to have never seen that man before. I denied having met that man before. She denied having ever met that man before. He denied meeting. I would say with the ing, he denied meeting that man before. Or having met could be as well. I insisted on having never met him before. You could also say that. Yeah, I insisted on having never met him before. She denied meeting him. So remember that after denied, we're going to use the ing verb. She denied meeting him. I'll give you one more. Okay, here's the last example. Imagine if I tell you I can run so fast. I can run so fast. How could you put this into a reported sentence? I can run so fast. She admitted. Yeah, after admit, I actually would use to. Here it's in parentheses, but I would use to after admit. She admitted to running fast. I boasted about being able to run so fast. Very good. She boasted about being a fast runner. He boasted about running very fast. I boasted about running so fast. Nice. All of these are really good. You could use fast as like what Joao did with being a fast runner. I also like the option of being able to instead of can. So when we want to change the tense of the word can, in a lot of cases, like with the gerund, it makes the most sense being able to. So these are all good options. She admitted to running fast. Nice. Okay. Very good, everyone. This one is going to be something to practice because I'm sure a lot of people are just not used to using ing verbs in this way. With the ones with the prepositions, it might be easier to remember, but also to suggest and deny, and there are a few other verbs that are always followed by an ing verb. So, important to remember. The teacher admitted to running so fast. She affirmed that she doesn't like running so fast. Maybe I would say that. Which actually brings us to our next list. All of these words, we've seen them before today. Agree, boast, claim, complain, deny, exclaim. This one we haven't seen, but to exclaim is like, wow! Explain, inform, promise, suggest. All of these can also be followed by a that clause. This is your typical reported speech sentence where if something was reported in the past and you're not sure if it's still true, you have to change the tense to be into the past. So this is like your typical reported speech sentence with a that clause. So it's important to remember that we have different structures with these verbs. I can say, I denied running fast, but I can also say, I denied that she was my best friend. So if I use the word that, I then have to put a subject pronoun. And it could be myself, it could be I denied that I run fast, or it could be a different person. But if I say I denied running fast, that is about myself. So you can use some of these verbs with a gerund or infinitive if you're not changing the subject. Like I claimed to have met him is I claimed that I myself met him. Versus with that, you have the option to change the subject. So here I have some examples. He agreed that it was a beautiful hat. It's like behind a symbol, so I think that says hat. He boasted that he was a brilliant dentist. He claimed that he knew the answer. He complained that I never listened to him. He denied that he had spoken to her. He exclaimed that it was wonderful. He explained that it was an easy recipe to follow. He informed me that I would be called for an interview. He promised that he wouldn't lie to me again. He suggested that I take the other road. She apologized to her CEO for being late, I would say. Okay, this is a great question. Do you need the that? In English, actually, with reported speech, I would recommend if you have a really long sentence and in writing, it's better to include that. But it's true that especially when speaking, it's very common to not include the word that. So he agreed it was a beautiful hat. He boasted he was a brilliant dentist. He claimed he knew the answer. I would say that especially with the words like claim or to say, these ones especially are often used without the word that. We drop the word that. It's not incorrect to say the word that. And in fact, I think it can help you to get used to the structure. But very often people, especially after these reporting words like claim or say something, are going to drop the word that. He complained I never listened to him. He denied he had spoken to her. He exclaimed it was wonderful. He explained it was an easy recipe to follow. Yeah, so you could also use them without the word that as well. He denied that he had stayed in the party. She suggested that he go to the doctor. Nice. And that is the subjunctive. That's another can of worms. Can I say should before take? That is fine. That's more like British English. He suggested that I should take the other road. You could say it in British and US English. Yeah. They normally use should instead of the subjunctive. He suggested that I should take the other road. Yeah, that sounds fine. He suggested that I should take the other road. But like in the example that Joao said, she suggested that he go to the doctor. In US English, we use this structure where you say he go instead of he goes when you're talking about a suggestion. In British English, they always say should. So she suggested that he should go to the doctor instead of using just the subjunctive. She claimed that she was faithful to her husband. Yeah, I can clarify the word claim. Claim is to state or assert that something is the case, typically without providing evidence or proof. The Prime Minister claimed that he was concerned about the debt. Yeah, so it's like an assertion that something is true. It's really common in the news because in the news, normally they don't say that a person was correct. They just say, this person said this that they thought was correct. They asserted or stated something. Their father informed them that they would soon leave on holidays. Politicians are often claiming something. Yes, very true. Very true. It's saying, yeah, stating or asserting something almost like it's a fact, but without necessarily supplying evidence. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a sentence in direct speech, and I want you to say it in reported speech. So, and there are several correct options for this. So imagine if someone says this, I can't help you today. How can I put this into a sentence with reported speech? I can't help you today. What could be a possible sentence with reported speech? I can't help you today. She denied that she could help me today. She apologized for not being helpful at all. She denied that she promised me to help. Okay. She informed me that she can't help me today. Yeah, and that would. Okay, so we have a couple of options. If you want to show that it hasn't happened yet, like maybe it's early in the day and you asked her for help in the evening, then it makes sense to say she informed me that she can't help me today because it hasn't happened, it's in the present or future. But if you were just talking about what she said in the past and it already happened, we would need to do back shifting and change the word can't to be couldn't. She informed me that she couldn't help me today. So it depends if something is definitely in the present or future and not happened yet, you can use can't. But in other situations, you need to change the verb to be further into the past. She claimed that she will help. The same thing, I would say she claimed that she would help. We have to do back shifting. With this reported speech, we change the verb to be the form further into the past. And with the word will, usually that means changing it to the word would. She claimed that she couldn't help you today. She said that she wasn't able to help me today. She said that she was not able to help me today. Nice. Okay, what about this one? You're my best friend. How could I say this using the structures here? Again, there are multiple possible answers. You guys can be creative or even use one of the ing verbs from before as well, or another structure if you prefer. You're my best friend. How can I say this with a reporting verb? She insisted on saying I was her best friend. She boasted about being my best friend. She denied being my best friend. Denied just is followed by the ing verb or that. So she denied being my best friend, or she denied that she was my best friend. She agreed that she was your best friend. She claimed to be my best friend. This is a good one also if you wanted to say that someone said this but then later didn't really act accordingly. You could say she claimed to be my best friend, but then she refused to help me when I needed it. And I complained about not having anyone to listen to me, and she admitted to ignoring my problems, and I apologized for taking it all out on her, and she offered to invite me to her friend's cottage to make everything better. But then I explained that I didn't really trust her anymore, and I'm trying to think of what are the other verbs. And then she promised to be a better friend. He claimed I'm his best friend. She exclaimed that you are her best friend. She exclaimed that I am her best friend. Yeah, I would say the best option in reported speech, like the one that works all the time, no matter what, is when you backshift. So if you say, she exclaimed I was her best friend, the focus is the comment at that time in the past. So when you're using reported speech and you change the verb tense to the past, you're always correct. But if your focus is not on the comment in the past, but the present situation, then it's okay to not change the tense. So an example, imagine that I meet someone and he tells me, I live in New York City. I could later say, he told me he lived in New York City, just reporting exactly what he said to me. Or I could say, if I'm pretty sure it's still true and I'm just focusing on the present situation, that I'm sure he lives in New York City currently, I could say, he told me he lives in New York City. So it depends, is your focus on that past comment, or is it something that you're sure is still true? So always you're going to be correct if you use the past or the back shifting. But if your focus really is something present that you know is real now, then it's okay to not change the tense. So that's a little bit weird, but yeah, it depends. If you really want to focus on the present situation, then it's okay to use the present tense. Like one example is, someone said before, you promised that you can help me today. I would only use that if I'm talking about something that hasn't happened or it's in the future. But if someone says, I can help you, and then they don't help you, and all of this is based on a comment that they made in the past, then I would say, you said you would help me, but then you didn't. So yeah, more common is to change the verb to the past because it works no matter what, if it's true or if it's not true. But if you're sure something is true, you can keep the verb in the present tense. Okay, I have a couple minutes. Anyone have any final questions about this topic or the class today before I head off? I would say, yeah, in terms of reporting verbs, the most important things to remember are the following. We can have verbs that are followed by an infinitive, like admit to doing. No, that's a gerund. Like agree to do something. We can have verbs that are followed by an infinitive, but also need a person there, like another person, because it doesn't make sense to only say to blame someone else, or you need to have an interaction with another person. So those words are going to be followed by an object pronoun. You have words that are followed by an ing verb, which you have to get used to in English because that is part of the language. It's not always progressive tense. You also need to practice what are the prepositions that combine with these words, because you admit to doing something, but you complain about doing something, you insist on doing something. They might not always make sense based on Every language has different preposition use. There's never like one translation for a preposition. And the last thing is with that, you have to practice the structure for reported speech and whether it's a good idea to do backshifting or not. I would say in most cases you can do backshifting, change the tense further into the past. But if you're specifically wanting to emphasize that something is still true, you don't have to. And that is grammatically correct. If you guys check it out on Merriam-Webster's website, they have a whole explanation of reported speech. So the dictionary, Merriam-Webster, has an entire explanation on reported speech. And here's the good thing to everyone. I'm teaching you patterns so that you can feel more comfortable with them. And when you're in the moment of speaking, you're going to try to internalize patterns so you can use them yourself. But if you don't get something completely right, most people will still understand you in a lot of situations. So yes, we need to pay attention to the patterns of English and get more used to it and try to use it ourselves. But it's also not the end of the world. Each detail is not the end of the world. So I just recommend practicing a lot, but it's okay if you get some small details wrong. I'm helping you with the small details because I think we have a variety of levels. So some people need more details to be explained than others. But I would say no, don't sweat it. I've heard natives use the present tense when referring to something said in the past. My friend goes, "I'm your best friend." Yes, that's true. When telling a story specifically, you can see that native speakers tell stories in the past using the past tense, but also in the sense that someone is telling you a story and they want you to visualize like you are in the situation. It's common that people use the present tense as well. This is not something you should use if you have an English exam and they're judging your tense use because they might think, oh, he doesn't know the past tense. But if you're in a real world conversation with English speakers, it's completely okay and common to use the present tense when telling a story. So I can say, yeah, so I go into the store yesterday and the lady looks at me and is like, why are you here? And I'm like, I don't know, why are you here? And she gives me a coupon and I take the coupon and I run out of the store. I don't know why. I think I was inspired by the Family Guy chicken story with that. Why are you learning German? Well, different reasons. I wanted to learn another language, and also I'm very interested in the history of English. And English is a Germanic language, and so I was interested in learning either German or French because both of these languages have a lot of etymological roots in common with English. And so those languages jumped out at me just in terms of learning more about kind of the structure and the history of the language. Because English is a Germanic language, but we often forget that because of all of the words that come from Latin roots. And so I really wanted to learn more about Germanic languages. And so that was kind of where my interest came from. And then I happened to come across a teacher on Instagram that I followed that was offering German classes. And so that it was like a message that I should start classes. When you put probably at the beginning of a sentence, is it a sign that you're not a native? The most common position for probably. Yeah, I think probably at the beginning of the sentence is not the most common position. The best position is probably between, is probably He has probably done that before. Yeah, it's usually going to be after the auxiliary verb as the most common. The thing is, though, if you put probably at the beginning of the sentence in some situations, I think it's not necessarily a sign that you're not a native speaker, because native speakers also sometimes will put uh, an adverb at the beginning of a sentence. If that's the first word that comes to mind, like, probably we can make that work, right? So in that sort of situation, it is common that a native speaker might say the word probably first, but in general, it's not the most common position for the word probably. So if every time you use the word probably, you're putting it at the beginning of the sentence, that is not really going to feel supernatural for a native speaker. But I don't think it's something where you should never put probably at the beginning of the sentence. I think that a lot of native speakers might do that if they're kind of thinking while talking in a way. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone else. Also, thank you. It's a shirt. It looks like a dress, but it's a blouse. Would you mind giving us a piece of advice about the gerund? Yes. So, gerunds. There are different ways that we use gerunds in English that might not feel natural to you in your native language. I would say the easiest use of the gerund to start with that you can get more used to is that we put gerunds at the beginning of sentences. So, swimming is good for you. Drinking coffee wakes me up. That's the first easiest use to get used to with the gerund, is just putting verbs at the beginning of sentences and getting used to that. So I would say that's a good place to start if you're a person very confused by gerunds and you're not really sure how to incorporate them more. Start there. If you put a verb at the beginning of a sentence and it doesn't have a subject, that verb 99% of the time should be a gerund. You have the exception of William Shakespeare, to be or not to be, that is the question. But in general, it sounds the best for that verb to be a gerund. Now, after that, other ways that we use the gerund are if you... Yes, exactly. That's because the verb is a subject. Yes, you're not having a different subject. The gerund is the subject. Now, if you get used to that, you can also try using the gerund as the object. So, swimming is fun, or my favorite hobby is swimming. And so it's very common with the verb to be in situations where you could put a noun, instead of putting the noun, putting the gerund. So, my favorite book is Harry Potter, or my favorite activity is swimming. So that's probably a good place to start, is thinking about how you can use gerunds as subjects and objects of sentences. In addition to that, we have words that precede gerunds. I would say it might be helpful to get used to words in different categories, like recommend and suggest, followed by a gerund. So focus on really common verbs rather than everything at once. And then you have, after this, also I think could be an easier one to go off of, is after prepositions or phrasal verbs. So actually, if you're learning phrasal verbs and you're learning gerunds together to have a more natural sounding English, you can think of it this way. After phrasal verbs, most of the time, if you have another verb there, that verb is a gerund. I gave up smoking, for example. I took up knitting. I would recommend for everyone, the best topic to start could be hobbies. So try to get used to using gerunds related to your hobbies, and that is a good place to start. So swimming is fun. I love swimming. I gave up swimming. I took up swimming. So try to use action verbs related to hobbies and put it at the beginning of the sentence, use it as the object of the sentence, put it in a structure after a preposition, after a phrasal verb. I think that could be a good place to start. On top of that, I also have on my Spotify and YouTube, I have an episode dedicated to chunks of words that are followed by gerunds, and that could also help you. I should go. So I'm gonna get on with, yeah, I enjoy reading, exactly. I'm gonna get on with the rest of my day. I hope you all have a good Saturday and take care. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye. Take care. Bye, everyone.